Tomatoes provide 28% of daily vitamin C per large tomato, 20% vitamin A, and 10% vitamin K, plus B vitamins. Cherry tomatoes are particularly nutrient-rich per gram. The combination with lycopene and other antioxidants makes tomatoes nutritionally valuable. But there's an interesting complexity in the raw versus cooked recommendation. The document notes that cooking concentrates vitamins per serving, though reduces vitamin C. This is accurate but requires unpacking. When tomatoes are cooked, water evaporates, concentrating nutrients. However, heat degrades vitamin C. So cooked tomato sauce has less vitamin C than the equivalent amount of fresh tomatoes, but potentially more of other nutrients per volume. Additionally, cooking tomatoes increases the bioavailability of lycopene, the red pigment and powerful antioxidant. Lycopene is better absorbed from cooked tomatoes than raw, particularly when combined with fat like olive oil. This creates a dilemma. Raw tomatoes provide maximum vitamin C, cooked tomatoes provide maximum lycopene. Which is better? The answer, of course, is to include both raw and cooked tomatoes in your diet, which is what's recommended. But this illustrates how eat your vegetables is actually quite complicated when you consider nutrient bioavailability. The suggestion to consume tomatoes daily in various forms throughout the year is practical in regions where tomatoes are available year-round. In some climates, fresh tomatoes are seasonal, which is why canned tomatoes are mentioned. The note that in winter, canned tomatoes, particularly San Marzano, are often more flavorful and nutritious than out-of-season fresh, is important and often overlooked. Fresh tomatoes shipped long distances and stored for weeks lose flavor and nutrients. High-quality canned tomatoes packed at peak ripeness can be superior. This challenges the assumption that fresh is always better. Sun-dried tomatoes are mentioned as portable vitamin-dense snacks. This is true, though sun-dried tomatoes are also quite concentrated in calories and often high in sodium. A quarter cup of sun-dried tomatoes can contain 50 to 70 calories and significant sodium, depending on preparation. The recommendation to always pair tomatoes with healthy fats like olive oil is sound. Fat enhances absorption of lycopene and other fat-soluble nutrients. This is why tomato-olive oil combinations are traditional in Mediterranean cooking, not just for flavor, but for nutritional synergy. The suggestion to vary tomato colors red, yellow, purple heirloom varieties for different antioxidant profiles is nutritionally accurate. Different pigments indicate different antioxidants. Purple tomatoes contain anthocyanins, yellow tomatoes contain different carotenoids. But heirloom tomatoes are often expensive and limited in availability. The mention that tomato acidity enhances iron absorption and the recommendation to serve tomato-based dishes with legumes for synergy is smart nutritional thinking. The vitamin C and acidity in tomatoes help convert plant iron into a more absorbable form. Pasta with marinara sauce and white beans is both delicious and nutritionally synergistic. What I find valuable about tomato recommendations is the acknowledgement of multiple forms: fresh, cooked, canned, sun-dried. This flexibility makes tomatoes accessible year-round in various climates and economic situations. However, there's an assumption that everyone enjoys tomatoes, which isn't true. Some people dislike the texture, particularly the gel around the seeds. Others find tomatoes too acidic. For people with acid reflux or GERD, tomatoes can trigger symptoms and may need to be limited. The centrality of tomatoes to Mediterranean cuisine is mentioned, which is absolutely true. Tomatoes are fundamental. But tomatoes are native to the Americas and were only introduced to Mediterranean regions after European contact with the New World. What we think of as traditional Mediterranean cuisine is actually relatively recent in historical terms, incorporating New World foods like tomatoes, peppers, and beans into older culinary traditions.